The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
Who is like the wise person, and who knows the meaning of a matter? A person's wisdom illuminates his face and makes his stern face brighten up. I say, keep the commandment of the king because of the oath before God. Do not be in a hurry to leave him. Do not join in an evil matter, for he will do whatever he pleases. Since the word of the king is authoritative, who will say to him, "What are you doing?" One who keeps a royal command experiences no trouble, for a wise heart knows the proper time and procedure. For there is a proper time and procedure for every delight, though a person's trouble is heavy upon him. If no one knows what will happen, who can tell him when it will happen? No one has authority over the wind to restrain the wind, nor authority over the day of death. And there is no military discharge in the time of war, and evil will not save those who practice it. All this I have seen, and have applied my mind to every deed that has been done under the sun at a time when one person has exercised authority over another to his detriment. So then, I have seen the wicked buried, those who used to go in and out of the holy place, and they are soon forgotten in the city where they did such things. This too is futility, because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed quickly. Therefore the hearts of the sons of mankind among them are fully given to do evil. Although a sinner does evil 100 times and may lengthen his life, still I know that it will go well for those who fear God and who fear him openly. But it will not go well for the evil person, and he will not lengthen his days like a shadow because he does not fear God. There is futility which is done on the earth. That is, there are righteous people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the wicked. On the other hand, there are evil people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the righteous. I say that this too is futility. So I commended pleasure, for there is nothing good for a person under the sun except to eat, drink, and be joyful. And this will stand by him in his labor throughout the days of his life, which God has given him under the sun. When I devoted my mind to know wisdom, and to see the business which has been done under the sun, even though one should never sleep day or night, and I saw every work of God, I concluded that one cannot discover the work which has been done under the sun. Even though a person laboriously seeks, he will not discover, and even if the wise person claims to know, he cannot discover.
This week, we dive into Ecclesiastes 8, a chapter that challenges us to wrestle with life's paradoxes, from the mysteries of God's plan to the injustices that we see in the world. How do we navigate it all with wisdom and faith? Tune in as we explore why joy and trust in God are the keys to finding peace in an uncertain world. As always, be blessed and enjoy.
All right, welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts,
Nakhaz Gay.
Earl Roberts. Appreciate everyone tuning in with us this week in real time. I mean, we just recorded this one on Tuesday night, so things are fresh.
Yep.
Your boy Trump is back in the White House.
Yep.
People
a lot of changes
are
being made.
my boy got busy with the pen.
How are you? You know,
Busy
no time
busy with the pen.
to waste with it.
Yeah, man. I mean, shoot, if you guys want to know our thoughts on that, you can go back to the episode with Yana. That was like
That was a while ago, actually. But back
Yeah.
in November, so I'd say about 10 episodes ago.
Hmm.
But I mean, to all is in power. We know God's in control.
And funny thing.
Go for it.
th- Today's episode, well, today's chapter, kind of aligns. Kind of aligns with some of the emotions that people might be going through and wondering
That's
what to
wild,
do. You know,
I didn't even think about that until you actually like just said that. But like, that's really
it's kind
true.
of. I was reading that because when I read, I'm like, wait, didn't we go over this? But then I realized it was other texts in the New Testament that echo
Hmm.
a similar thing on the episode with Yana that we touched. And I'm like, bro, right in this book,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? It's the same message, and to God be the glory. So
But yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing good, bro. I just came back from Dallas. It is very cold. I'm sure most of America
No, it's wild. We talk about
experiencing
so
that.
much other stuff, and we ain't even talk about your trip to Dallas.
Yeah, it was good, bro. It was good. I like Texas. Texas remind me of DC, bro. When we was out there, like Dallas,
Hmm.
like I keep thinking I was in DC, bro.
I
Like,
tell you, Dallas is a good vibe, right?
yes, it's a nice vibe. It's a nice vibe. And to those who disagree with what I say, just know I don't get out that much. You know what I mean? Y'all probably know. Y'all probably know these cities way better than me. You know what I
Oh
mean?
my.
But yeah, the vibe was good. You know what I'm saying? You get to watch a college game. That was pretty cool. But overall, it was very cool. I talk about your ass burning by the time you get to the car, bro. Like you're burning from the cold, bro. The cold got you burning.
Oh
You
my.
know,
But yeah, I even here in Florida, man, like Tallahassee right now under like an emergency state because all the snow they're getting
it's
dumped there. They're
snowing.
getting like
Yeah,
6 inches of snow today. They
it's,
mobilizing snow plows. Like this Florida. That doesn't
it's
happen.
crazy. Yeah,
Even
that's
when the
that's
governor
that's
was giving his
wrong.
address, he was like, "Yeah, it's wild that we're doing this in Florida, but we got to make sure we're de-icing bridges." And I'm like, in Florida?
Yeah, that's just wrong. That's just wrong,
Even
bro.
even parts of like Central Florida tonight might get down to freezing. So
Mm.
it's gonna be a cold week for us.
Boy, I ain't gonna lie, but and I call, but bro, I out of this, bro.
No, no,
And
100%.
to
I
make
don't miss
matters
snow.
worse, yeah, no, and it wasn't snowing in Dallas. It was supposed to, but I guess it warmed up a little bit. But by the time I got there, but bro, I forgot my jacket.
Did
It
you
was
buy
what
one?
I didn't buy one. I just had to layer up. I had a jacket, but
Mm,
my big, I ready for whatever jacket.
you
I leave
left
that
it.
right on the couch. Like it was the
Ouch.
last thing I was supposed to pack. You know what I
Ouch.
mean? Because I was just gonna put it on the top and just squish it down.
Hmm.
But boy, forget it. And I did pay. I had my gloves. I had my Tom. You know what I mean? I had boots. But I had everything, bro. But my big jacket, oh boy. I just had to run to the car, bro. Like when I got
Right.
outside and like
I remember that. I know that feeling, man. One time when I was in college, we went to Seattle and I left my jacket. And boy, Seattle was cold. I
oh
ended up
man.
buying a jacket, but I couldn't even fake. Like I was like, but we here all weekend. I
Yeah,
can't do this.
sure.
I go right in one store, I get me one jacket. I say, well, I have an X jacket now. So,
Let me tell you what bugged me though. The first day we get there,
hmm.
we do shopping. We
Hmm.
going shopping. I take in my jacket in the bag. You see what I said? I take in my jacket and my suitcase, bro. We get home. It's the Sabbath now. No jacket. I looking for it. No jacket. You know what I mean? Because I did already wear another jacket, but my other jacket was red. And
Hmm.
it's like, I only bring one thing what can go with red. Yeah, they got me wearing green and red like it's Christmas again. You know what I mean?
Oh my.
But anyway, we made it. We made it.
Yes, sir. God is good. God is
Oh,
good.
it's good.
All right. So pre-thought. You want to just do Psalms? We ain't do Psalms in a minute.
We'll do it.
I just exit out the thing, but I think we should be in Psalms 8.
Your guess is as good as mine, my friend.
No, I was saving it on our stuff. Let me just go look at that real quick. I think the last thing we did was Proverbs 8. I know that for a fact.
Hmm. Yeah, I know we ain't did that in a.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
We did Proverbs 7 on November 15th, and that's the last thing I see.
We do
Proverbs.
Proverbs 8 on the 20th. So did we just skip Psalms altogether?
Wait. Oh, okay. Proverbs 8. Yeah.
We did Psalms. We did Psalms
No, no, no.
7 on the
Wait, we did.
23rd,
Yeah, we did Psalm 7 on the 23rd, and that's the
and
last thing I see.
and then Proverbs 8 on the 20th. So yeah, we on Psalms 8. All right, let's go. Psalms 8. Loading.
Psalms 8.
All right. I'm going to just read from NIV for this one. Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory in the heavens. Through the praise of the children and infants, you have established a stronghold against your enemies, to silence the foe and the avenger. When I consider your heavens and the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them rulers over works of your hands. You put everything under their feet, all their flocks and herds, and the animals of the wild, the birds of the sky, and the fish of the sea, all that swim the paths of the sea. Lord our God, how majestic is your name in all the earth.
You know, as we was reading this, I just caught like a few songs, bro. At least like
I
three
know, right?
songs. You know what I mean? What am I that you are mindful of me? That's a
Mm-hmm.
song. You see what I'm saying? Oh Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's so interesting, bro. Like I like when songwriters they put the Bible in it. That way you can memorize the song, but you also memorize the scripture at the same time. But in general, um this this chapter to me, it just you know, it's just David's artistic way of talking about how all powerful and all connected, nature is how connected nature is with the all powerful God. You know what I'm saying? Like we have, he talks about the fish, he talks about the moon and the stars, just the world, all of the things that are created by God, the beasts in the field, the birds of the heavens, they're all God's creatures, like when we had that song, Our God is so big, so
So
strong and so
strong and
mighty.
so mighty.
There's nothing our God cannot do. They say the mountains are his,
Mm-hmm.
the
The
valleys are
valleys are
his,
his.
the stars are his handiwork too. You know what I
Mercy.
mean?
There we go.
Yeah, and so it is true. That, and I think it's beautiful. Like in the Bible, where we can see how people during those times how they revered God. Because I was just sitting there thinking,
Boy.
I was really thinking about how much David know about angels. You know what I mean? Like obviously angels came, all through Genesis we hear angels come in like and visit and stuff like that. But it's like he say that he made humans a little lower than the angels, right? How much do you know about angels, bro? Because like even to me, it's like
Mm-hmm.
when we get to Ezekiel, now we learn a little bit more about angels. You
Mm-hmm.
see what I'm saying? And I just like, bro, like yeah, I know. I feel like it's a lot to know about them, and it's not a lot that's like just generally understood about them. But David not only has them to reference, but he relates them with all of God's creatures.
Yeah, I think it's just a beautiful posture in and of itself. I mean, you reference the songs that come from it. To me, it's just a good reminder, just the glory and the splendor of God, right? Like the previous book we did was Job, right? And we see at the end of Job when God revealed himself to Job and just asking, like, do you know who essentially holds the universe together? Do you know how these things are kept in place? Right? And I think we as humans sometimes can lose sight of that. Like me and we just had we were on the phone for like about an hour. We're not only talking about that, but we had a whole conversation on just inadvertently the divinity of God, right? And to me, it's just interesting, man. Like just to understand that how great and powerful God is that we can never truly comprehend His greatness. You see what David was saying here, like you do all of this. What are humans even to you that you should care for us?
Mm.
That you should set us up to be in charge of the stuff you created. You create these stuff and you entrusting it to us to care for. Like, who are we to do this? Yeah, we a little lower than the angels, but like, man, you are the splendor and awesome God. And I think sometimes we just lose sight of that. And I think it's just a beautiful reminder. And just So just honor the things that God created because we take advantage of it more than we probably should. Like I always find myself like in those not weird times, but those times when you're just like in awe of nature. Like when you look up at the stars just one randomly, it's like, bro, when was the last time I actually just look at the stars and just look at the heavens, quote unquote, as we call it? Or you just go to a lake in the forest. Like I have one, honestly, like 10 minutes away from my house, so that's like a 15-minute hike. But it's like you go there and you're like, oh, this is beautiful. You know what I'm saying? When I was on the West Coast, going to the mountains, seeing the waterfalls, being like 2 feet away from ending it all if you serious. But that's just like that stuff just like sheer beauty, like the sheer handiwork of God. Just
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, even when we was at the canyons, and the
Hey,
dam, Hoover Dam and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, bro, this stuff is beautiful, bro. Like, to me, I can't even imagine you going to the Grand Canyon and not saying, but God exists. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, bro, how do we explain this big thing right here, bro? And
exactly.
I was watching documentaries upon documentaries after we leave the Grand Canyon because I like, bro, what do people that don't believe in God, hence they wouldn't believe in a great flood, what would y'all, well, what would be your rationale for the formation of this thing? You
Hmm.
know, and I see one of the documentaries I watched, bro. They had say a guy discovered like shells, bro, like seashells in the Grand Canyon, bro. And it's like, how
How
would
they
that
get
have
there?
gotten there? You know what I mean? And bro, it's crazy, bro. Like, the things, bro. Even when we went to the zoo, bro, like Sanford Zoo, I like Sanford Zoo, but when we went to the zoo at Disney, bro, we see all of these animals. I never hear about this zebra, half donkey, or half horse type. You know what I mean? Like these things you looking at, bro. Like what? Like I never see these things. But I never even hear about such things. Then they have
Mm.
different, species that you familiar with. Like or a regular goat. You know what I mean? You ever see a mountain goat? When we was riding to the Grand Canyon, I see a mountain goat. You see what I'm saying? Up in the mountains, big brolic, white, just
Bro, I remember
flying
the
over.
first time I saw an elk. I was like, wow, that's a
That's crazy.
real elk.
Yeah, I never seen one in person.
Bro, I was freaking out in the car, bro.
I don't know if I want to see one. I ain't like, I'll go on moose. I know, bro. I know, but yeah,
And
bro.
they sound scary too, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Elk just have a weird noise. Anyway, we digress. But yeah, man, like the splendor and the handiwork of God is just something I think we should all just take a break. And I encourage everyone during this week or upcoming week or this weekend, if you're listening to Action the Weekend, just take some time to enjoy the handiwork of God. That could be the stars, that could be your favorite tree, that could be the beach, that could be a lake or river. But take some time to just appreciate the handiwork of God because there's often times when we take it for granted and neglect it. And
Mhm.
it's always just that reassuring moment when you actually just do it. So it's awesome.
Amen.
All right. So this week we are in Ecclesiastes chapter 8. Chapter 8.
Yeah, Steve, chat the 8.
You want to recap chapter 7? I'm not putting you on the spot.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me pull up
Go for it.
chapter 8 real quick. So yeah, in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, we talked about wisdom and folly, you know. Excuse me. Sorrow and adversity are portrayed as valuable teachers. We started off talking about how it's better to be in the house of mourning than to be among fools. And we
Mm-hmm.
can see where Solomon is really saying that the food for thought that you get while you in such a euphoric, happy state is way different than the food for thought you get when you're in a very solemn state, you know. And he makes these parallels a few times early on in the chapter, He also encourages a life of moderation, righteousness, humility. And one of the text that really stood out to me, and we went over this last last week, but there's a text where he says that don't be overly righteous, you
Mm.
know. Do not be excessively righteous and do not be overly wise. Why should you ruin yourself? Do not be excessively wicked and do not be a fool. Why should you die before their time? There's one more text, the verse right before that. It says, I have seen everything during my lifetime of futility. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there's a wicked man who prolongs his life in his wickedness, And so we can see these things where it's like, there's no determinant factor on how your life is gonna go. We
Mm-hmm.
have righteous people who don't live long, you know what I'm saying? And we have wicked people who live dead long, you know. And even like trying to figure these things out, or try to figure out the pattern in that is futile, We're gonna touch on that a little bit more because this chapter kind of bleeds in that point kind of bleeds into this chapter as well.
It does. Okay, let's do this. So the first verse we read in last week's episode, I'm gonna just read it again. Who is like a wise man who knows the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom makes his face shine, and the sternness of his face is changed. And then now in verse 2, I say, keep the king's commandment for the sake of your oath to God. Do not be hasty to go from his presence. Do not take your stand for an evil thing, for he does whatever pleases him. Mercy, do not take your stand for an evil thing. Mercy.
Right. So basically, that's like saying, bro, don't play the hero and protest the king because you're wasting your time. Because the
Mm-hmm.
king is going to do whatever the king wants to do. You see what I'm saying? You cannot stop that. I mean, it's good to speak up and and to be the voice of reason, but just understand that you're not going to stop the king's action. You know, um, um, and so this is the point I was mentioning earlier on in the part. Verse 2, it says, keep the command of the king because of the oath before God, right? And it's like, sometimes as Christian, now, I want to say there's nuance to this text
Mm-hmm.
because there are times when the command of the king directly
Contradicts God.
contradicts God. And the hierarchy does not say king, then God. We keep God command first, then the king. But at the same time, God, because God, God wants us to, not be rebels or not be
Mm-hmm.
disrupted. Whether you disagree with the people in power, keep their command, obey, the leaders, don't break the law, essentially. I say, unless it contradicts with God's law. You see what I'm saying? If it ain't contradicts with God's law, God's will, any of that, but you just don't agree with it, that's not exactly a license to be committing the crime. You know what I mean? To disobey, you know, or I mean, you could protest, but just keep the command. Basically, keep the law. Is essentially what this text is saying, and that kind of goes in line with other texts in the New Testament. They talk about people who are servants. You know what I'm saying? People are
Mm-hmm.
slaves. That's a touchy subject, especially for Black people. Bearing in mind, though, slavery that happened in the Bible is completely different than the transatlantic slave trade, where people were kidnapped. You see what I'm saying? And taken into slavery. A lot of times, and another caveat: everybody had slaves, no matter the race. You know what I'm saying? White, Black, whatever the race, they all had slaves because slaves was a form of labor, of
Servitude.
course, but servitude. If I owe a debt and I cannot pay the debt, I'll sell myself into slavery. You see what I'm saying? Or if I committed a crime, I now become a slave. Like this is the way how it worked in general during those times, and it's been like that for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And so they talk about you being a servant of God, obey even your slave masters, bro. And that's a hard pill to swallow because we want to say no. We rebel against them. We rebel against them, you know. But we are called to be godly and Christ-like no matter the circumstance that we in. Now, thank God for this text. This ain't a slave situation. This just talking about your leaders, your world leaders. And basically, it don't encourage us to be rebels. You know, be law-abiding citizens even when you disagree with the people in power or
Hmm.
with the people in power.
It also reminds me of what was said in Romans 13 as well, when it was saying that, let everyone be subject to their governing authorities, for there is no power but from God. But essentially, the text going to say, everyone who in power is essentially appointed by God.
And bro, truly, bro, saying this as a person of African descent, bro,
Let me
it's a
actually.
hard pill for my people to swallow this concept. You know what I mean? We've been wronged. It's a lot of scars that we still dealing with to this day, you know? But if you also think about the Hebrews shoes, the Jews, right? When Jesus came, they was looking for someone to emancipate them, bro. They weren't enslaved, but they were being ruled by another authority. You know how hard it is to be ruled by someone else when you have the pride of being God's chosen people every day?
Hmm.
Imagine if somebody convinced you that you are royalty, bro. Then you have this other nation
I
who
know
you
I'm
see,
royalty.
right? You see as pagans, right? Imagine if everybody had that mindset, right? And you see people who you say are pagans, you don't like the way they worship, they live like people you don't even respect their lifestyle, but they ruling you. You gotta obey them. You gotta let them rob you when they tax you. You see what I'm saying? All these things. When Jesus come, they say, hold on, we got a bunch of zealots running around. We got a bunch of people who can't wait to break free or can't wait to be free. We waiting on the Messiah to free us, bro. That's what we believe the Messiah is coming to do. Jesus come around, he don't look like he even want to free nobody. So they they try to ask him something. They say, hold on. So what to do, man? You got to pay taxes to you or tithes. And Jesus say, bro, who face on that quarter?
Hmm.
They say Caesar. He said, well, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, unto God what is God's. That was a trick question. Because if you were a Jewish Jew, if you were an ethnocentric Jew, you would say, don't give to Caesar, give to God. That's your priority. But Jesus say both.
But now you're in
I
trouble
ain't
with the Romans.
yeah, the Romans, bro. I ain't condoning y'all breaking the law. It ain't God's law, but still you gotta keep the law out of line too, because I ain't condoning lawlessness, essentially, And that was a trick for them because they like, surely any Jew would say to break the law. And then when we do that, we could tell Caesar on them because that's all they was waiting to do anyway. They was gonna tell the Romans. But Jesus
Hmm.
is like, man, I see through your games, man.
And I just want to read the actual text just because I felt like I butchered it. So it says, let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment upon themselves.
Bro, you know how hard of a pill that is to swallow, bro? Because it's people who truly have a disdain for the current leader of the United States of America.
Oh,
And it's
mm-hmm.
like a very emotional thing. Some people you can't like have a rational conversation. Like you can't say anything good about the opposition, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you read that text, some people might be ready to start being Christian just off that text, bro. You know what I mean? But
Mercy.
but at the end of the day, bro, like our discipleship, our obedience shouldn't only shouldn't only be in place when we agree with what God is doing. You see what I'm saying? Or when
Agreed.
it's yeah,
Like, you shouldn't just be serving God when it's convenient for you. And I
right.
think that's what a lot of people have a hard time to swallow, and that's a lot of people who left Christianity. That's their beef. They want to do it when it's convenient for them. But the minute something doesn't align with your personal beliefs, there's friction. There's naturally friction. When your will doesn't align with God's will, there's friction. In a relationship, when you and your partner disagree, there's friction. And that's why the whole purpose is to be united in one purpose, one goal. But if once you ain't united, there's friction. And that's a lot of people gripe, because when the Bible says something that you don't that you disagree with, it's hard. What you mean I shouldn't be doing this? When last shot, like last in Ecclesiastes, essentially called you dumb if you get angry. If anger is your first reaction,
Yeah,
be slow to anger.
anger lies in the bosom of fools.
You know what I'm saying? So now you like, nah, I dumb. That's a hard pill to swallow.
It's a hard pill to swallow, bro, because it's like anger, bro. Anger is such a like a natural reaction. You don't even have to be taught to be angry. You know what I mean? It's a response to stimuli, bro. Like, but if I react on that, now I'm a fool. You know. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it is what it is, bro. Sometimes, bro, our flesh, bro, is so damaging, bro, that we don't see the evils or the wrong in just acting on every emotion. We don't see the wrong in that. Sometimes you feel like, boy, I ain't listening to them, but that's your true feeling. You know, I ain't for but sometimes you feel like putting hands on someone, but that could be your sincere feeling. But you can't react on your feelings, you know?
Man, I was gonna say something that I used to struggle with, but a lot of people still struggle with. But that's a whole different podcast topic. I feel like so. I can swallow that point for now. I'll mention it off pod.
All right.
So where were we?
Like three?
Ecclesiastes 8 verse 4.
Okay.
Where the word of the king is, there is power. And who may say to him, what are you doing? He who keeps the command will experience nothing harmful, and a wise man's heart discerns both time and judgment. Because for every matter there is a time and judgment. Though the misery of man increases greatly, for he does not know what will happen. So who can tell him when it will occur? No one has power over the spirit to retain the spirit, and no one has power in the day of death. There is no release from that war, and wickedness will not deliver those who are given to it.
So here he's saying, so he kind of clarify a little bit, continuing the topic of, just knowing when to hold your tongue. But if you have a sincere grievance, just wait. Just wait, bro. Who could go to the king and say, "What you doing, bro?" You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot. You don't have the authority to do that, and then you might not even have the proximity to do that. You know. So basically, you just gotta know time and place. And when Solomon big on that, he doesn't say that in
Ecclesiastes 3.
another chapter. You're right. Like, it's a time and a place. It's a time to do this. It's a time to do that. You know. You just gotta know your time. You see what I'm saying? Um, Right here, he's saying, bro, that, and then he going a metaphor on authority. No man has authority to restrain the spirit, or to my verse in the Nasby, it'd say authority to restrain the wind, or authority over the day of death. And there is no discharge in the time of war, and evil will not deliver those who practice it. These things you cannot escape. You can't escape these things. You can't control these things. You see what I'm saying? Like, and this last line, evil will not deliver those who practice it. That is so important because just last chapter he was saying, I see wicked people who live a long life. And I see righteous people who die short.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So now I was left after that text thinking, well, what's the point then? You know what I mean? Remember the creator and no, honor your father and mother so that your days may be long, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about that now in context, that probably meant because it's in the land, you know what I'm saying? Like, not that your life would be long, but that you just don't get, expelled from that land in some type of way. But anyway, excuse me. There's this thought that, you do what you do right, you live righteously, and you live longer. Why? Because you protected from God and you just live a harmless life, But when we see righteous people go early, and then we see wicked people live long, it almost be like, bro, what's the point of that? But guess what? No matter how long you live, the Bible says evil will not deliver those who practice it. You see what I'm saying? You're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna get away. You practicing evil, there will be a debt to pay. You see what I'm saying? There's a wage to pay for that. Regardless if your life long or short, there's one thing that you can't escape. And so that's the point of doing righteous. Because even though your life's short, you're gonna have a reward. Evil, to people who do evil, their life could be short or long. They don't have a reward, they have a consequence waiting on them.
Agreed. This remind me of that psalm. I forget which psalm it is, man. We talked about this before, but essentially when David was like, man, I used to worry about like why my enemies doing so good for me. But then I see like what like they have nothing better coming for them type thing.
Yeah, it's like the Psalm of Asaph. What that is?
Yeah, I can't remember which one it is though. And
Yeah,
forgive me, but
I used to
that,
know that like the back of my hand.
but that same train of thought, what you were just talking about, reminds me of that song.
Yeah, yeah, I can't remember it, man.
And then verse 9, all this I have seen and applied my heart to every work that is done under the sun. There's a time in which one man rules over another to his own hurt. There is a time in which one man rules over another to his own hurt. Then I saw the wicked buried, who have come and gone from the place of holiness, and they were forgotten in the city where they had so done. This also is vanity, because the sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily. Therefore, the heart of the sons of man is fully set in them to do evil. Though a sinner does evil 100 times, and his days are prolonged, yet I surely know that it will be well with those who fear God, who fear before him. But it will not be well with the wicked, nor will he prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he does not fear God. There is a vanity which occurs on earth, that there are just men to whom it happens according to the work of the wicked. Again, there are wicked men to whom it happens according to the work of the righteous. I said that this is also vanity.
All right, so this getting deep now, and I'll be honest with you. I don't have an answer for the way things are, and Solomon didn't either. He just make note of it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he go on a mini tangent where he say a sinner does evil 100 times and may lengthen his life.
Mm-hmm.
Still, I know that it will be well for those who fear God and who fear Him openly. But it will not be well for the evil man, and he will not lengthen his days like a shadow, because he does not fear God. But it's like, although a sinner does evil 100 times and may lengthen his life, right? That's verse 12. And then in verse 13 it say, but it will not be well for the evil man, and he will not lengthen his days like a shadow, because he does not fear God, you know? And so I think what verse 12 is saying, he he may have a long life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he is not doing himself any favors by being wicked. He's
Mm-hmm.
not lengthening his life, you know. Although it's kind of like a weird, it's almost like a contradictory way, like the way it's saying. But you could see in verse 13 for sure, he's saying that he didn't fear God, thus a consequence is happening. You know what I mean? But in hindsight, we also have the same thing with righteous. You know, there's a futility which is done on the earth. That is, there are righteous men to whom it happens according to the deeds of the wicked. So it's like, bro, we see righteous men, and the way they end, you would think they was wicked. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's the classic Job scenario right here. What we was talking about last week, but it was something kind of deep. Like, oh, I can't remember. I can't remember if it was you or Yano, but we was talking about the natural the fires, right?
Yep.
When, right, when, you know, I don't know if we said it's on part or off part. Oh, I think we did at the beginning of the part. And it's like, some people are very vocal as saying that this is the judgment of God.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And while that may be true, in this same book, we see in where some people get what appeared to be the judgment of God. Meanwhile, he was righteous the whole time. You know what I mean? And I think when he's saying this is vanity, I think he's basically trying to say, bro, trying to understand any of this is vanity.
Yeah.
Trying to put any of this, try to find a rhyme or reason, that's vanity, you know?
Because there's no pattern. So you
Mhm.
just think yourself into a circle, right? Because it's the whole Job argument to your point. Do good people suffer, and do all bad people punished? The answer is no. Bad people, some bad people prosper, and some good people are in our minds unduly punished, but God knows why. You know what I'm saying? So like trying to figure out this answer, trying to say, oh, this person must be evil or this person must be good, or why, or try to wonder why does this wicked person have a better life than me?
Hmm.
Solomon in Earl terms, Solomon said, you only hurt in your head, guys.
Real dog.
You
But
only
man,
hurt in your head.
But look at in verse 15. Look at what he conclude with. Like what after he gets so deep, right? Look where he land.
So I commended so I commended enjoyment. Because a man has nothing better under the sun than to eat, drink, and be merry. For this will remain with him in his labor all the days of his life, which God gives him under the sun.
So your boy's like, but you could be righteous and die early. You could be wicked and live long. But hurting your head over this is futility. But boy, that's why I love pleasure, bro. Like it's like you live, you know what I mean? Like that's really why I was into whatever. Because remember, he already established from I think chapter 2 that he searched he
High
he
and
he
low.
yeah, search high and low for every pleasure, bro. You see what I see? And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I was on that pleasure run so hard, bro. Because by true God, ain't nothing more important than eating and having a good time. You know what I mean? Like and enjoying the work of your hands, bro. Like that's he said that in another text, you know.
Like, ah, for all this will remain in his labor, all the life of which God. When, in verse 16, when I applied my heart to know wisdom and to see the business that is done on earth, even though one sees no sleep day or night, then I saw all the work of God, that a man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. For though a man labors to discover it, he will not find it. Moreover, though a wise man attempts to know it, he will never be able to find it.
Mm.
And to me, this is so key. This is so key. And because it's something, but I mean, long story short, man, it's really something that we all try to struggle with, right? Like, who could understand the work of God? You know what I'm saying? Like, who could truly understand? Like, even we've had a conversation, we're like, bro, it's just kind of hard to understand God's ways sometimes. You know, like, and he said, bro, like, a wise man trying to attempt to know it, he can't find it. You labor to try to discover it, you ain't gonna find it. You just can't understand. You can't comprehend it because any logical conclusion you end up landing on, it still ain't gonna make a complete sense, or there's still gonna be some nuance that you can't reconcile. It's gonna be something this and that's this again brings you back to Job. This is why the whole crux of Job's friends' arguments, because they couldn't reconcile this God that they had in their mind with what was happening in reality. To a certain extent, Job couldn't really reconcile. Job just know I did nothing wrong. I just want to plead my case before God.
Yeah, Job was just pointing out how God doing, man.
Like Job is like, bro, I did nothing to deserve this, but yet I am suffering.
I
Why?
just want a
Mm,
trial. I just want a trial.
eh? Clearly, it's supposed to be one of y'all. God got the wrong person.
There you go.
But yeah, man, like or like like it's just like cause and then like to me Solomon like the book of Ecclesiastes starts to turn after this chapter a little bit in my opinion. But
Mhm.
what you think about that? Like his conclusion 15 and then 16 and 17.
So let me see what 15 say. Well,
Conclusion was to eat, drink, and be merry.
so that's a common refer. That's almost like a chorus he's saying now. You say,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Because like that's his conclusion. After he tell you everything, but it's so futile, right? He go through it. It's some things that you might actually like, but he's saying, but that's futile, right? Then he turn around and say, bro, but there's a few sincere pleasures, not even pleasures, but there are some high points in life that are truly meaningful, right? Eating and drinking. And some people could take that as partying. Some people could just take that as enjoying your life. You see what I'm saying? And the work that you do, that being enjoyment for you, and also not overworking yourself. You see what I'm saying? He make that distinction very clear in multiple chapters. And so after going through, sometimes he talk about work. Sometimes he talk about greed. Sometimes he talk about, like in this chapter, life, like long life, the relation between life and wickedness and righteousness. He say, bro, we could hurt our head doing all of this, and still come up with nothing, bro. Truly, you could sit here and try to study all this and you could end up with nothing. But I could give you a shortcut. It's plenty of things that don't actually mean anything because although it might give you happiness, the happiness is fleeting. Excuse me. The happiness is fleeting and then you go want it again. These things are insatiable. But I can tell you, it's some things that's meaningful, bro. Enjoying the work that you're doing on a day to day. You try to think too far ahead, it's futile. You try to focus on the past, asking, what happened to the good old days, man? Why are they so much better than us? That's futile. You see what I'm saying? Basically, keep your head up, bro. Watch the road, bro. And keep on trucking in your everyday life, bro, and find enjoyment in every step of the way. Because why? Solomon, he has sought out every work. I do a deep, comprehensive study, bro. I do a study on the work of men every day, all the labor, and I do this a study on every work of God that I could identify, and I realize I can't understand him. I can't understand him, bro. But even this men, he talking about the philosophers and all of these, really studied men. They laboring all day and all night, bro. But they will not discover, bro. Even though some people say, I know what's going on. They don't know what's going on. You can never discover what's going on. So I mean, you could try all you want, but you're wasting your time. You know what I mean? Excuse me. But truly, if we talking about true, like meaningful connections in life, bro, it's a certain connection that you have. All right, let me give you an example. When Adam and Eve was in the garden, they was tasked with naming the animals. You see what I'm saying? Even before sin, there was a job to be done. You know what I mean? When sin happened, by the sweat of your brow, man shall eat bread. You see what I'm saying? There's always a task and a work to be done. And truly, that's how God wanted it to be. I believe this is good for your own brain. You sitting around doing nothing, you can go bored, bro. If that was the case, bro, people who's in solitary confinement, that would be like a
That'll be
like a
the ultimate
vacation.
pleasure.
Yeah, it'd be a pleasure, bro. Like that wouldn't be a punishment. But you have me sitting around doing nothing. I need to do something. You know what I mean? And not only do I need to do something, I need to enjoy the thing that I'm doing. This is how we get the most of our human day to day motion, And Solomon knows that, even despite the scientists and all of the smart people in the world now and back then, they saying they know God. They could tell you everything about God. They could tell you these deep questions and philosophies of God. But the truth of the matter is they don't know God because it's not we're not humanly able to know God. You know,
And one
we
more thing
can
I would
take.
say before you
Mhm.
line it to, and I think like that verse 16 and 17, one thing I like about it, it almost like it indicates that it's okay to not understand everything. Like
Mhm.
accept the mystery, accept that there are certain things about God's character and his wisdom and his work that you will just never be able to understand. No matter how wise you think, no matter how much you study, no matter how much you research, there are just certain things that you will not be able to comprehend in this life. And that's okay.
It's okay, bro.
Like
No,
that's
I mean,
the go for it.
no, I mean that's really the long and short of it. It's okay, and it's also kind of telling when people claim to know to understand God. You see
Hmm.
what I'm saying? There are things that God tells us that He will do. There are patterns that God tells us to look out for. This literally prophecy. God gives us prophecy, so when it comes to pass, we can say, "Oh, this is God." This
Hmm.
credibility we give in. But to understand God, to fully understand God, we're not able to, you know. And
No.
so, as humans, we should stop trying to act like we are able to. And then even when people try to come on to you or like come on, like present themselves in a way that they understand God. Oh, I understand the cosmics and I understand all of this and that. That's a clear sign that they do not know. That they just do not know because the things of God, it's just inconceivable. In this chapter, Solomon starts off by showing that it is wise to obey the king's commands, and it is also important to use wisdom and discernment to determine the right course of action when challenging authority. Next, Solomon reflects on one of the paradoxes of life, where the righteous can live a short life, but the wicked can live a long life. No one knows the reasons behind this, but the author reminds us to enjoy life, eating, drinking, and being joyful, since life's outcomes are ultimately beyond human control. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your host, Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.